Good morning, my name is Jamil Ribalta, and today I'm going to expose you a brief presentation about my research on Gillette Razors advertising during World War II. Throughout history, human beings have been attracted by imagery. Taking this into consideration, the pioneers of printing started the modern business of advertising in the 15th and 16th centuries. This research is focused on the American advertising industry in the early 1940s, when posters were one of the most common ways of promotion. The country was still recovering from the impacts of the Great Depression and was entering World War II. During this time frame, the Gillette brand advertisements explicitly sold razors, but it implicitly portrayed men as strong beings, people who really have a genuine sense of patriotism and defenders of the homeland and its values. They used the rhetorical tactics of ethos, pathos, and logos, appealing to the credibility of the members of the armed forces, the patriotism of the American people, and the general notion of the importance of a good physical appearance. During World War II, the Gillette brand advertisements explicitly sold razors, but it implicitly portrayed men as strong beings, people who really have a genuine sense of patriotism, a huge love for their country. They wanted to be the defenders of the homeland and its values. For the advertisement concerning to this research, the company uses the rhetorical tactics of ethos, pathos, and logos, appealing to the credibility of the members of the armed forces, the patriotism of the American people, and the general notion of the importance of a good physical appearance. Here you can see the advertisement from which my research is based on. In that image, it can be appreciated a young member of the armed forces, specifically from the Navy, being surrounded by seagulls and wearing his service uniform. He is also touching his shaved chin, and he looks happy for it. Below can be seen the razor's blades that were used by the sailor to shave his beard. The targeted audience by this ad are those men who are part of the military and the young men who want to be part of it to serve their country. Men are portrayed in this image as the strong force of the United States. The presented ad uses the rhetorical technique of ethos, which appeals to the credibility of someone, being in this case the members of the armed forces. In this case, this research talks about a martial institution, but the principles to have credibility in front of society are the same. By this time, people had a good perception about the armed forces for all the efforts they had been carrying to defend the integrity of the United States and its interests. This influenced the usage of military symbology by Gillette to project a sort of credibility for their products. The citation that I use for my arguments on ethos is from Michael Patton. He is a sociologist who has a doctorate, PhD, in sociology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he spent 18 years on the faculty of the University of Minnesota. He is also an independent organizational development and program evaluation consultant and former president of the American Evaluation Association and founder and director of Utilization-Focused Evaluation. Patton states that ethos is the credibility of the researcher, which is dependent on training, experience, track record, status, and presentation of self. As you can see, it is extremely related to the trust that the American people had on the military. This was used by Gillette to project also confidence in their products, since they were used by soldiers, people who everybody trusts. Another figure that is also used is the rhetorical technique of pathos, which appeals to the emotions and the sympathetic imagination, as well as to beliefs and values, which are in this ad the patriotism of the American people, and the general sense, especially in men, that their homeland must be defended and their masculinity reinforced. This was a time where the sense of masculinity was affected for the crisis that was created by the Great Depression. Using that problem as a tool, the propaganda complex of the nation started to develop the image of the American soldier as the perfect image of how an American man should be. In this case, the citation that I am using is from Mark Grandstaff. He is a visiting professor in strategy, doctrine, and air power at the United States Air Force Air War College and an associate professor of history at Brigham Young University. His specialization is on popular culture and war and society. Grandstaff argues that the war provided the means for the American male as soldier to redeem manhood from the crisis of economic modernity, to undergo a trial or an initiation into a new life, to become a transformed being. This makes it very clear that war was an opportunity to save the masculinity of American men. The other rhetorical technique that was used by Gillette is logos, which appeals to reason, and was in this case the general notion of the importance of a good physical appearance. There is an importance of physical appearance in the context of the modern consumer society that creates a perception which is in people's reason. The individual sense of personal identity is a key factor for the entrenchment of the practice of shaving and the use of razors. I am using here a citation from G. Bruce Retallack, an expert whose credentials are very significant. He has been a sessional instructor for the Department of History of the University of Toronto. His specialization is on general history, having a Doctor of Philosophy (PhD) in History from the University of Toronto and an Honours Bachelor of Arts (BA) in History from the University of Waterloo. He has also been awarded with the John Bullen Prize of the Canadian Historical Association, which is given annually to the best thesis in history submitted through any Canadian university. Retallack claims that the clean-shaven look, once a fashion option, may be seen to have evolved over the course of the 20th century into a primary signifier of the North American masculinity. The importance of a good-looking man was very significant at that time, and it still is. We are now at the end of this presentation, and it is very important to recapitulate what we have discussed until now. During World War II, at the early 1940s, the Gillette brand advertisements explicitly sold razors using images of men as strong beings, people who love their country, who want to defend their homeland and its values. They used the rhetorical tactics of ethos, pathos, and logos, appealing to the credibility of the members of the armed forces, the patriotism of the American people, and the general notion of the importance of a good physical appearance. The credibility of the military, the image of a new patriotic American man, and the general notion of the importance of a good physical appearance was used by Gillette to sell their razors to the male group of the society. Their propaganda campaign, which was conducted during wartime, was successful since it appeals in a good and assertive way, with the use of ethos, logos, and pathos, something that male society was waiting since the end of the economic crisis. This is how companies make their advertising campaigns, and that is why they are so effective. Finally, these are all the references that I used for this presentation and the research. I hope you have enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun having this class with all of you, and I hope we meet again next semester. Have a good day and an excellent holiday season.